Yes guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to Mulenga TV. Welcome to another video. I thought of just doing this video to put it out there before the final because I wanted to get the opinions of the viewers. But you know, today is Afcon final day. Of course, Nigeria and Ivory Coast. We await to see what the final holds for us, or holds in store for us. May the best team win. Both these teams have got a point to prove. Both these teams have got something to play for. So it's going to be an interesting final today. So I hope, hopefully, we're gonna have a good one, and it's going to be a great matchup all around. But now, as we're coming to the business end of Afcon, I realize that we need to have this conversation in terms of when you look at Afcon as a tournament so far. Who would you say has been your player of the tournament? Now, I've got a list of few, I think about seven or so people that are, I think, could be candidates to be player of the tournament, and I'm interested to gauge what you think of who potentially could be player of the tournament. And you know, it's been a very interesting tournament. It's been very up and down. You know, some of the favorites that we thought were going to go deep into the competition were some of the first people to go out of the competition. So it's been very interesting. It's been very entertaining, and even the players as well, they've stepped up. And even according to my list and the players I compiled, I was actually quite thrilled to have a player in each position, you know, starting from goalkeeper all the way up to forwards. That normally doesn't happen when it comes to competitions, because normally the forward players are the ones that take the plaudits, the ones that actually are in the forefront of being in these positions in terms of being a player of the tournament. But it's good to see that even some of the goalkeepers stood forward. So let's get right into this video. But before we get into the video as well, like we always do on the channel, if you're new to the channel, welcome aboard. Do us a favor, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, Mulenga TV. Much appreciated to all the new subscribers and to each and everybody that's been showing love on the channel. Big up. Now, let's get into this topic of who potentially could be the player of the tournament. Now, when you look at player of the tournament, it's really just the player that really stood out in the tournament, the player that really, when it came to, or when it mattered, or when you know they stepped up in terms of their performances. And we've got a few players that we're going to discuss. I'm going to start with the backline. We're starting from the goalkeepers, and I actually never thought of this, because at the end of the day, whenever you look at players of the tournament, goalkeepers are really far from that conversation. But I've got two players, and I feel like they are a shout, to be honest, for player of the tournament. The first goalkeeper I'm going to put onto this list is Stanley Nyabwali of Nigeria. I think he's had an amazing tournament. He's only conceded 2 goals thus far at the tournament. He's got 4 clean sheets as well. He's been very pivotal to all the good that Nigeria has done, and for me, he's definitely a candidate, not just for the Golden Glove, because he could potentially win, well, technically maybe not, but yeah, he could be potentially tie for the Golden Glove. But he's been a brilliant player for Nigeria as well. Very key to all the good that they've done there at the back. I think for me, he's definitely a shout for player of the tournament. I know it's not always favorites as a goalkeeper, but yeah, I think Stanley Nyabwali has done very well. Who can forget his 2 key saves against South Africa that sent Nigeria into the final? So fair play to Stanley Nyabwali. For me, he's one of the candidates that should be considered for player of the tournament. Another player in terms of the goalkeeper that should be considered for player of the tournament for me is one Rowan Williams. I think if you look at Rowan Williams' heroics, not just his heroics in the Cape Verde game, but even his heroics last night, I feel like last night was really when it hit me a little bit to say, hey, listen, I think this guy probably should be a shout for player of the tournament, because at the end of the day, he's had a phenomenal tournament, equally himself, only conceding 3 goals at this tournament as well. He's got 5 clean sheets, so at the moment he's in pole position at the moment to take the Golden Glove. Of course, Stanley Nyabwali playing in the final tonight might tie that, but he's had a brilliant tournament. Who can forget his heroics against Cape Verde, where he made 4 saves in a penalty shootout? That's something I've never seen. That was the first time any goalkeeper has ever made 4 saves at any FIFA recognized competition. So him making 4 saves, following it up yesterday with 2 more saves, I mean, to me, he's done his part. He's really stood out as a he stood out as a key player, not just for South Africa and the good that they did going into the semi-final, finishing as the 3rd best team, but he's definitely stood out in his performances as well. Only conceding 3 goals, he's kept 5 clean sheets so far. So for me, I know sometimes goalkeepers can be overlooked in terms of this position, but for me, he's definitely a shout, and he should be one of the people we should look out for in terms of player of the tournament. The other player that we're going to look at in terms of player of the tournament, maybe not as prolific in terms of in front of goal, but I think his leadership qualities has helped Nigeria get all the way to this final, and that's one William Troost-Ekong. I think he's been a very, very key player for Nigeria. He's been pivotal to the good that they've done so far at the tournament as well. He scored 2 goals from the penalty spots, 2 big goals, one against the Ivory Coast, the other one against South Africa as well in the semi-final recently played. So he's definitely a candidate if Nigeria go all the way and win the tournament for player of the tournament, because of his not just his ability to lead from the back as well, but his ability to step up in big moments as well when he's been required to as the captain. So he's been pivotal to a lot of the good that Nigeria has done. So William Troost-Ekong is definitely one candidate that should also be considered for player of the tournament. The other player, also Nigerian, that should be considered for player of the tournament for me is one Ademola Lookman. I think he started off a little bit, he came to the party kind of a little bit late, but since the round of 16, he's probably been one of their best players as well. And I feel like he's the only player that potentially could finish with the golden boot. He could actually, if he scores 2 goals, he could tie it with Emilio Nsu. But if he actually scores a hat-trick today in the final as well, he could actually go all the way to win the golden boot. But I think he should be considered for one of the players of the tournament, because he's had an outstanding tournament as well. Who can forget his 2 goals against Cameroon? Who can forget his pivotal goal against Angola? He's been a very, very key player. Ademola Lookman as well for Nigeria, coming up clutch when they needed him the most and stepping up. So he's definitely one player that should be considered for player of the tournament. Another player that should be considered for player of the tournament as well, in spite of him leaving the tournament pretty early, was one Emilio Nsu, currently the tournament's top scorer with 5 goals. I mean, he lit up the group stages. I mean, he was consistent, he was key, he was a great finisher as well, scored a hat-trick, one of the first hat-trick to be scored at Afcon for a while. So yeah, he definitely should be considered for one of the players of the tournament. But normally, sometimes when we talk about players of the tournament, it usually comes from a team that ends up winning the tournament or something thereabouts. But for me, he should definitely be considered as one of the players of the tournament in terms of the way he's performed, in terms of the way that he's just helped Equatorial Guinea get to the round of 16, topping the group in the process as well. So fair play to Emilio Nsu. Another player as well that did very, very well at this tournament as well was Angola's Gelson Dalla. I think Gelson Dalla as well should be considered as one of the players of the tournament as well. He's a very, very exciting, quick player as well. I like his style of play a lot. Was pivotal to Angola, scoring the 2 goals in the round of 16 game when they played, I believe it was Namibia they played as well, scoring as well in the group stages. So yeah, definitely Gelson Dalla's definitely been one of the consistent players at the tournament. So I think he definitely should be another shout for player of the tournament. And lastly, another player that could have about an outside chance as well, if you want to throw him onto the list, could be Mustafa Mohamed for Egypt. I think he was a key player for them, although Egypt not necessarily having the best of tournaments at this Afcon. I think he was a very, very key player for them. He did very, very, very well. He scored 4 goals as well. Same with Gelson Dalla as well. He could be someone that's considered with an outside chance. It's very unlikely for him, but hey, he has to get his props as well. He was one of the best performing players at the tournament as well. So fair play to Mustafa Mohamed of Egypt. So those are my key candidates for who I think should be player of the tournament. If it were down to me, obviously I feel like ultimately the winner is going to come from the winning team. You know, it's interesting because it's interesting that none of the Cote d'Ivoire players have actually stood out. So it would be interesting because if I could actually make a case for any Cote d'Ivoire player, maybe Frank Kisse as well in that midfield. But otherwise, not a lot of the Ivory Coast players have stood out in terms of being that key player for Ivory Coast at the tournament. I think they've shared the goals amongst themselves, which has been fair play and credit to Ivory Coast. In terms of who I would go with personally, listen, I know it's not really popular to go with a goalkeeper, but I'll put it this way. If Nigeria win, for me, it would probably have to be Stanley Nabwali, because obviously goalkeeper, it would be nice for once to see the goalkeeper be named as a player of the tournament. That would be my pick if Nigeria won. But if it was down to me, I'll give it to Rowan Williams, because I think his heroics should not go unnoticed. You know, he potentially could be tied with the Golden Glove, but his heroics, especially saving 4 penalties in 1 game and following up with 2 more. I mean, he's made 6 saves at this Afcon, so definitely somebody for me I feel would be deserving to win player of the tournament. But you know, most of the times it's the 4 players that take the front in terms of winning these accolades. So it's going to be interesting to see who ends up player of the tournament. But those will be my 7 picks or 8 or 7 picks to be players of the tournament. But I want to know, who would you think, or who do you think should be player of the tournament? Who has stood out? Maybe somebody on the list that I may have overlooked, but I feel like for me those have been the standout players at this Afcon, and definitely one of them should be named or crowned player of the tournament. So let me know down in the comment section, who do you think should win Afcon player of the tournament?